Good morning from Grass Court in southern Indiana. Today it's a little bit rainy outside, so I wanted to show you something a little bit different inside the house. We're actually in our house kitchen right now. I wanted to show and demonstrate to you the difference between a clean jar and a dirty jar. We have a lot of customers that return jars that are clean, but after you get to looking at them, they appear to be dirty. So I want to show you the difference, how we know that they're still dirty, and what you can do to make them clean. First, I want to show you 3 jar specimens that will show you the difference between a clean and a dirty jar. This jar here has a very clean appearance to it. You can see it shine, glimmer, the glass looks extremely clear, there's no blur to it, it's dry, there's no difference. Hopefully the lighting in my camera will allow you to see the major difference. This jar here, this one looks clean. If you can tell, it looks a little less clear than the other jar. It still shines pretty much, but right around there you can kind of see in the curve of the jar there's some little bit fuzzy haze to it. That jar looks pretty clean. I mean, if I was just going to pick it up, in general, it looks really clean. Then we have this jar. This jar here is obviously dirty. This one I just emptied actually. So if you send us anything like this, by the time we get it, it's moldy, nasty, and it stinks, and we may not even reuse that jar because we won't be able to get it clean. So please don't send us anything that's dirty. And so now I want to explain to you the difference between dirty and sanitary. So this is a dirty jar, okay? I won't ever use anything like that. But the other thing that we want from a jar before we fill it is sanitary. So before we ever fill any jars, we put them through sanitizer water. This water has just got a little bit of Clorox bleach. It's about a half a tablespoon per gallon, so it's not a lot, but it's enough to give them a little bit of sanitation so they're ready for the milk to go in so they don't get enculturated with other bacteria. So here's where we really see the difference between the two what look like clean jars. So this one here again, this is the clean one. When I put it through the sanitizer water, it should remain looking very clean, and it does. This one's the clean one. You can look at the glass. I'll just go ahead and pour this back out. If you look at the glass, it's still very clear, and if you see the water, there's a couple of drops on the outside, but for the most part, the water is running down the glass in veins. There's really not a lot of droplets, and it runs off of the glass. That's a clean jar. There's nothing holding the water to the glass. There's no dirt or any other specimens of bacteria or anything holding the water to the jar. So it runs off the jar and it's pretty dry, pretty clean. Now this jar, this one, now I made this one dirty. I actually took and poured the milk out of it and I rinsed the milk out of it. But you see, again, you can kind of tell there's that cloudy appearance. When I sanitize this one, we put it through the water, and I pull it back out. See all the water that's holding up and beating up on there more than the other jar? It's actually holding, the glass is holding water on it because of the fat. So if we look down here side by side, it's kind of hard to tell here, but see that? There's droplets on that jar. This jar, not so much. So now that you've seen the difference between a clean jar and a dirty jar, we're going to head to washing the jar. First, I want to explain what makes the dirty jar a dirty jar and why the water sticks to the glass. Whenever the milk is in the jar, the butter fat sticks to the jar and that holds on the glass. It's that fat that actually holds the water globs and the drops of water to the jar, and that's why they look dirty whenever we put them through the sanitizing water. So whenever we go to washing, basically, we're just getting rid of that fat so the water will run off of it again. Once the water starts to run on the glass, then we know it's clean. So, if we look here, I'm going to show you what I do to wash a dirty jar. Here, we've got a regular Dawn dish soap. This is what we use all the time. Nothing special about it, it's just great old Dawn. Put that in the water, get it nice and sudsy. Make sure the water is hot. Cold water does not cut butter fat out of the jars. So, I'm going to wash this dirty jar, and then we'll compare it to the dirty jar and see just how much more this one shines and shimmers. So I am starting on the outside of the jar. I like to make sure that there's nothing on the outside that would keep me from seeing the dirt on the inside. Then the next critical point, and we get many issues here, is the rims. Where the threads are on the jar holds milk and cream residue very easily. It's easy when the jars are being opened and closed during use for the milk to get stuck inside of the threads. So we want to make sure that we cover the threads really well. Get inside, my hand still fits inside, so I like to wipe them out as such. Better than even a hand in a rag. Not as easy to use, but they do actually do a better job of cleaning the inside of the jar, is to actually use a scrubbing brush, a jar brush. So we use this brush here, stick that in there, rub that around. But most importantly is to make sure that either the rag or the brush has made contact with every part of the jar. Any part of the jar that has not been wiped over by a rag or a brush will not miraculously come clean by not scrubbing or washing it. The soap water won't just rinse the milk away. So once it's been scrubbed, then we'll run water over it and see how clean it is. As you can see, it's already shaping up quite nicely, becoming very clear, clean. And I don't know if you can tell how well, but the water is pretty much running away. There's some very few drops. And now, look at the difference. The other jar is still cloudy, but the one that I washed is very clear. We take this one and put it through the soap water, and we rinse it. Here, let me slosh it around. I'll demonstrate that the soap water doesn't just take the fat away. So, wash it, rinse it. We come back. Oh, now I better rinse that one again too. Alright, now we're back to it. This one was the dirty one. It's almost clean, but if you look at the two of them, you can tell that the dirty one, has much more water sticking to it than the clean one. If I wash this with the soap water and a rag, it will actually become cleaner and not hold water at all. So now that you've seen me wash the jars and you know how to get them clean yourselves, you can see why it is important to get us clean jars so that they are ready to refill. Now when we get the jars back from you, whenever they're clean, we run them through sanitizer water and we fill them. But as I showed you, it's easy to see when the jars are not perfectly clean. We can see the water droplets sticking to the jar. So we pull all of those jars aside and we wash them and make them clean so that they're ready to reuse. So that's our process for cleaning jars. Hopefully you've learned something, and hopefully you can get clean jars to us every time, all the time in the future. Thank you from all of us here at Grasscorp. We hope to see your order placed soon. Go to our website at grasscorp.net.